On this video, we're talking about the second reason why any type of marketing that you do in your business fails. Now, I say the second one because if you're hopping on this video and you're like, well, what did I miss? Go back to my channel. I had the first one out already, which is personnel. I discussed personnel, what to be thinking about mindset-wise, how to kind of look at personnel on your team, hiring, and that sort of thing. So make sure you do go check out that video. But the second video that we're doing today is on expectations, and then the third one that goes out next will be about direction. So let's talk about expectations, because this is a really, really big one. So I'm going to be setting expectations with you, like I'm doing right now, and giving you guidance on how to actually manage this and what to be thinking about if you have a team that's doing marketing for you. Maybe you're outsourcing it to an agency like myself, or you have people that are actually on your team in-house. So there's really core 5 things when it comes to expectation setting in a business. Now, like I said on the first video, personnel, expectations, and direction really encompass each other in many different ways. In fact, expectations and direction sometimes get mixed up with each other. However, I do think there's a clear line of division just from what I've seen. Now, my explanation that I gave in the first video is I've been in the marketing world for 13 years now, and I've dealt with just about every type of reason why my marketing failed, whether it was social media, podcasting, YouTube channel, TV ads, Facebook ads, whatever it is, SEO. I've heard all the reasons, and I believe that it always comes back to 3 core reasons why. And there's like these 3 silos that these reasons will fall into. And the second one is expectations. So when it comes to expectations, we typically look at, I'm going to run you through the 5 things and we'll chop these up individually. But the first one is timelines, processes, systems, your expectations, and then your team's expectations. These are the 5 reasons why somebody would say my marketing failed, and if it falls in the silo of expectations, it's one of those 5 typically. So the first one, we'll talk about timelines. I love talking about timelines because nobody has them. When it comes to dealing with a team, and if, again, we go back to personnel, if maybe personnel's failing and you're like, man, they're not getting videos out on time, or they're not editing, the amount of videos they're supposed to be editing, or they're not publishing the amount of videos we're supposed to be publishing, they're not putting out that one podcast a week. A lot of times it's timeline that actually has to do with that. So if we look at the way that management is run when it comes to marketing or social media, staying consistent, and especially in social media and organic content, we have to stay consistent. And we can only do that if we have proper timelines set in place. So I'll give you an example how it works in my business. So if we're managing content for a client, we might say that, okay, if we're posting 1 video a day on social media for a client, then we have to make sure that 7 videos are turned in by a certain time a week before that, because it has to go through a process, which is the second part of this, has to go through a process where it gets quality checked, gets copy written for it. If there are any revisions, let's say a caption is misspelled or maybe the video didn't play back well, that needs to get corrected. There needs to be enough time for that. Then it goes to my quality control team. It goes to my copywriting team. They're going to write copy, call to actions, all that kind of thing. Then it goes to my social media team where they're actually going to post it that following week. We have exact days that all of that content is supposed to be turned in. And if that doesn't get met by a certain team member, then they get punished for that. And punished is, a really strong word to say, like they get, a warning or whatever it is. And we have those things set in place to hold them accountable for that. So timelines are extremely important. We're able to produce, over 1,000 pieces of content on a weekly basis and publish it on time because we have very, very strategic timelines set. This doesn't have to be extremely complicated. Let's say, for example, you are wanting to put out 1 podcast episode a week. Well, that's super easy. You just want to make sure that you have that episode recorded maybe, 2 weeks in advance to the publishing date. So that gives you a week to be able to edit and create everything and have your team do what needs to be done to the podcast. And then a week to be able to have it scheduled out and on deck and ready to go. Like, you could have that simply laid out. But it takes a little bit of work, but maybe just have like ChatGPT outline you a timeline for your social media content or your YouTube management, podcast management, or whatever it is. But if you don't have those timelines set, maybe you're working on a specific project and it's like, well, this isn't a rinse and repeat. It's only something that's going to happen once. Then still set those timelines, because that will hold the team accountable, and make sure that you hold them accountable and not just let it slide under. Like, I would be checking if a project is due this Friday, I'd be sending a message today. Hey, where are we at? A message on Wednesday. Hey, where are we at? A message on Thursday. Hey, where are we at? And then Friday, it's deadline day. Like, Is it done? Where are we at? And make sure that you are meeting those timelines. So that's the first point. And normally those expectations don't get set with especially media teams. And it's very important to set those because that will hold everybody accountable. The second thing is processes. Processes are a really big thing. And I'm not an expert in processes. However, I have created multiple processes for my organization. And not to mention, I worked in the same office with a good friend of mine named Gary Harper. If you go check out Sharper Business Solutions, they do processes and systems build out for businesses. And I sat in the same office with him for 6 years, and it got pounded in my head as process. And it was one of the first things that I really implemented in my business when I went full time into my business. And I did that for a reason, because processes sniff out leaky holes in the ship. So we actually did this with our video editing team, and we revisit it on a yearly basis. Is we go through our core processes. One of them is video editing. So the entire process from start to finish on editing a social media video, we got all of our editors on a call and we went through every single step. Well, process is simply, the way I explain it as a process is just simply like step 1 through 10. Like, what does it take to edit a social media video? List it out. And then you list those things out. And in that meeting that we had, we actually discovered 3 or 4 inefficiencies where it was like, wow, that like should not be in there, or wow, we should add that in there. And that sets the proper expectations for the management of what's going on. And a lot of that has to do with hourly wages too. Like, I got to make sure that my editors aren't spending 4 times the amount of time on a video they're supposed to be editing when we have proper timelines set for how much, work they're doing. So that's part of the process, as well as with processes, is we got to make sure that we're keeping track of the type of work they're doing, how they're doing it, and then fixing any of that, because not setting those proper processes will set very unrealistic expectations. And then the second that we go to try to hold somebody accountable or question them about something, their expectations are like obliterated, because they're like, well, we've been doing it this way the whole time, so why are we changing? And you don't want that kind of poison in your business. The next thing is systems. Now, obviously, like, systems are going to be like what project management software you're using and all that kind of stuff. A lot of the expectation setting stuff is internal. Like, a lot of the direction stuff is actually external, but expectations is going to be internal. Systems are very important. You don't want to just have like a random process for, okay, well, when we're done editing videos, we upload them to Google Drive, and then we upload them on the spreadsheet on Google Sheets, and that's like, have an actual project management software that'll actually manage your content, whether it's just a podcast, whether it's your YouTube content, daily social media, or whatever it is. Make sure that you have something set in place that's actually going to be automated and that sort of thing, because that will make everything easy. We use Trello. We actually love Trello. It's very similar to like Monday.com or Asana. You can kind of pick whichever one you want, but you could even get away with a free version if you're only doing, like, say, 1 podcast episode a week. It's very easy to kind of pick that and set up your processes inside of your system. But having a centralized system for your team to operate out of, whether it's your in-house team or an agency you're working with, is highly important, because that also will allow people to check in on, like, okay, where's it at in this process? Okay, it's here now. This is the next step. And really, the holy trinity of management with expectations is going to be timelines, processes, and systems. If you can put those 3 together, all of your expectations will tie in, and you're going to be set, honestly. It's going to be a very seamless way to actually run not just your marketing, but also your business as a whole. So the next thing is a little bit more, a little poking in the chest, is your expectations. I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with people, and this is something that needs to be brought up, obviously. If this is you that thinks this way, then make sure you set yourself straight. But I have people come to me and say, Josh, you see that guy Alex Hormozy, right? Or that guy Ryan Pineda, or that guy Sam Prim. And they mention all these guys that have like millions of followers across platforms. And I literally immediately say, yes, I do. In fact, I know Sam Prim personally. I know Ryan personally. I don't know Alex Hormozy personally, but I've been following his content. Yes, I do. And the first thing that goes through my head is like, listen, at that level, you're playing at different rules. Like, you have a different set of rules. It's like the difference between AAA baseball and Major League Baseball. Maybe the rules are the same as the game, but, nobody's, batting average is as high as like a Major League Baseball, or those skill levels are that high. It's very important to understand that, because the practicing of how long Alex Hormozy has done his content and the connections that he has and just the consistency factor, people don't understand what it takes to actually accomplish that until you actually get into it. So setting proper expectations is very important. And if you go into thinking like, okay, I'm going to start putting out a podcast, let me do exactly what Alex Hormozi does and like go off of that. Now he even like will go on video and say like, okay, here's the roadmap of how I started from zero all the way to where I'm at today. You could follow that. But if you're looking at what he's doing today solely and making decisions based off that, that's the wrong way to go about it, because you are literally trying to map your game to where he's at now, but we need to be looking at where he was, where you're at now. Because if we do that, then we can step 1, step 2, step 3. The problem is a lot of people come into this thinking like, I can go from here to here easily because maybe I've done it in another area of life or another area of business. But especially in the content game, that's just not how it works. You can't necessarily just pay your way to the top or outwork your way to the top like over the course of 2 months or whatever. You can't be putting out a podcast for 90 days and expect it to be like bringing in millions of dollars of revenue. That's just not the right expectations. So we need to set those. The way we set your expectations is with that third video that I'm going to be putting out is about direction. So direction is a lot more around strategy, goals, and that sort of thing. So we'll talk about that in the next video. But that's where your expectations are going to get set. So it's important to make sure maybe you have like, yeah, like here's my pie in the sky goal that I really want to accomplish with my podcast, with my social media. That's cool. But you got to understand timeline-wise, we're not setting that here and now, right? That's something that we want to get to at some point, but we need to start at the level we're at now and be aggressive with output and make sure that our messaging's on point, our branding's on point, make sure we're staying consistent and, take it from there. The next thing is your team's expectations. Now, this also ties in with personnel. We need to make sure we're setting those proper expectations with the team. After we accomplish the direction piece of this, which is, again, that third video that we're going to be putting out, it's important to relay that and have your team a part of that. And if you're working with agencies and, third-party service providers, make sure that they are well-versed on what your direction, strategy, and all that is. And in fact, maybe that agency is going to help you create strategy based on what you're doing, whether it's SEO campaigns, Facebook ads, social media management, whatever. But you need to make sure that proper expectations are set internally with your team, because then that will, work in tandem with your timelines, processes, and systems, and also accomplish the direction part of what we're trying to accomplish here, and then solve your personnel part. Because a lot of times personnel don't have the right expectations set with them, so that it may appear that they're not successful in what they're doing. Let's take, for example, I gave this example in the last video. You may have a videographer that's incredible at video, but they suck at staying consistent on posting on social media. So you assign them editing video, and then you say like, hey, you also need to be posting on social media. But maybe that's the wrong person in the wrong seat, and the expectation that you had for them was incorrectly set, but you didn't do the math on deciding like, okay, is this actually person that's well fitted for this position? No, and you would have discovered that, okay, well, we're not going to put him there because he can't stay consistent with posting. So we need to make sure we look at those things too, and now you're seeing how all this ties in together. So expectations internally with you and your team and constant communication. That's what I would say ties everything in together, is the communication piece of this. Make sure you're constantly communicating, but not overstepping and trying to micromanage everything. Allow your team to openly communicate with each other, give feedback, give constructive feedback to you. If, I have a client that I'm working with, they say like, Josh, like, make sure you tell me if I'm doing my videos right. Like, I'm going to let them know, because it's important for them to have that kind of feedback. So that's kind of it for expectations. A lot of this is centered around communication. And like I said, that holy trinity is the timelines, processes, and systems. So if you have those set in place, then moving on to my next video, which is direction, then we're going to be sniffing that out, setting strategy, goals, and all that kind of stuff. But it's important to make sure we have all this kind of set with each other and get our mindset right. A lot of this second video is mindset as well. So we want to make sure we have those proper expectations and we're not setting incorrect expectations or too low of expectations, because I've seen that before. And that will help us not chalk up and say like, all right, that podcast didn't work after 90 days, or all right, that social media campaign didn't work after 90 days. We need to make sure we give it proper timelines and that sort of thing. So without further ado, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can get notification when that third video comes out. And if you didn't check out the first one, make sure you do go check that out. Talk about personnel and how to actually sniff that out and make sure that that's buttoned up. So thank you again for watching this video today. If you haven't already, make sure you have commented down below if you have any further feedback or questions. Thank you for watching. Catch you on the next one. See ya.